History does not always get it right the first time. Some of Britain's greatest cars of the 1990s were mocked, dismissed, or simply ignored the moment they arrived. Critics laughed, buyers walked past them on the forecourt, and yet, decades later, enthusiasts are quietly admitting they were wrong. These 10 British machines deserved so much more respect than they ever received. Some were ahead of their time. Others were simply misunderstood. But number 1 shocked even hardened enthusiasts when the truth finally came out. Stay with us till the end, because this story rewrites everything you thought you knew about British motoring. Number 10. TVR Chimaera. When the TVR Chimaera launched in 1993, most people assumed it was simply a softer Griffith wearing a different badge. That assumption cost it years of proper recognition. Critics called it the gentleman's TVR, a phrase meant as faint praise, almost an insult in a company built on raw aggression. Buyers chasing outright drama often looked elsewhere, towards the sharper, angrier Griffith instead, but something strange happened once people actually drove one. The Chimaera's Rover V8, in its various capacities up to 5.0 liters, delivered effortless power wrapped in a chassis built for real roads, not just race tracks. Ride quality surprised everyone. Long-distance comfort surprised everyone. This wasn't a compromise. It was balance. Many owners today insist it aged better than its wilder sibling. Would you have picked comfort over chaos back then? Few predicted that patience, not aggression, would define TVR's most usable classic. And the next car faced an even stranger kind of rejection, one rooted entirely in mistaken identity. Number 9. Lotus Elan M100. Few cars confused British enthusiasts quite like the Lotus Elan M100. Launched in 1989 but truly defining the early 1990s, it dared to use front-wheel drive, a decision many traditionalists treated as heresy. Critics assumed a front-driven Lotus could never handle properly. Buyers, loyal to rear-wheel drive tradition, often refused to even test one. That was the biggest mistake in Lotus's history. Once driven, the Elan's chassis silenced almost every doubter. Motoring journalists at the time praised its handling as genuinely class-leading, some calling it the best handling front-wheel drive car ever built. The turbocharged engine, sourced from Isuzu, offered real pace without sacrificing composure. Reliability, by Lotus standards, was refreshingly strong. Have you ever driven a car that broke your own assumptions instantly? The Elan did exactly that to everyone who gave it a chance. Production numbers stayed painfully low, and today values are finally reflecting what enthusiasts ignored back then. But another British car faced doubts for a completely different reason. Number 8. MG RV8. The MG RV8 arrived in 1992 wearing a body that looked suspiciously familiar, and that similarity nearly destroyed its reputation before it began. Critics dismissed it instantly as a nostalgia exercise, a facelift MGB dressed up for wealthy collectors. Buyers assumed it was all show and no substance, a car built purely on sentiment rather than engineering. That assumption ignored what sat beneath the bonnet. A 3.9-liter Rover V8 gave the RV8 genuine performance, paired with modernized suspension and vastly improved comfort compared to its 1960s ancestor. Very few enthusiasts today realize how thoroughly re-engineered it actually was underneath that familiar shape. Owners discovered a car that combined old-world charm with real usability, something the original MGB never truly offered. Would your opinion change knowing how much work went into it? Most people never looked past the styling long enough to find out. Its story deserved more attention than it ever got. But the next car divided opinion even more fiercely. Number 7. Jensen S V8. The Jensen S V8 barely gets mentioned in modern conversations about 1990s British cars, and that alone tells its own sad story. Revived in 1998 after Jensen's collapse decades earlier, it arrived carrying enormous emotional weight and equally enormous skepticism. Critics questioned whether a tiny, underfunded revival could ever produce something credible. Buyers, wary after so many failed British comeback stories, largely stayed away. Very few enthusiasts today even know it existed. Yet those who saw one in the metal often describe genuinely striking, hand-built styling paired with a Ford-sourced V8 delivering strong, usable performance. Production numbers were tragically tiny, making survivors almost invisible on today's roads. This wasn't corporate mass production. This was passionate, old-fashioned British craftsmanship fighting against impossible odds. Do you remember ever seeing one in period? Almost nobody does. Its story remains one of British motoring's quietest tragedies. What happened next proves this pattern of British underdogs repeats itself again and again. Number 6. Aston Martin Virage. The Aston Martin Virage arrived in 1989 but truly lived its story through the early 1990s, inheriting expectations almost impossible to meet. Critics compared it endlessly to the beloved V8 Vantage it replaced, and that comparison rarely worked in its favor. Buyers, emotionally attached to the old car's raw character, often resisted the Virage's more refined approach. Many assumed refinement meant a loss of soul. What they overlooked was genuine engineering progress. The Virage introduced a completely reworked 5.3-liter V8 with modern 4-valve per-cylinder heads, improving both power and drivability considerably. Handling matured. Build quality improved. Long-distance comfort became a genuine strength rather than an afterthought. Later Vantage versions, with forced induction, silenced doubters almost entirely. Many owners only realized its true competence years later, once nostalgia faded and objectivity returned. Would your judgment have softened after actually driving one? History suggests it should have. Even that reassessment wasn't the biggest surprise still waiting in this list. Number 5. Rover 800 Vitesse Sport. Few cars carried as unfair a reputation as the Rover 800 Vitesse Sport. Landing in the mid-1990s, it faced an impossible task, competing directly against BMW and Mercedes while wearing a badge already damaged by years of poor publicity. Critics assumed it couldn't possibly match German rivals dynamically. Buyers, chasing prestige badges, often dismissed it without a test drive. That dismissal ignored something remarkable. With around 200 brake horsepower from its turbocharged engine, sharpened suspension, and a limited slip differential, the Vitesse Sport genuinely rewarded enthusiastic driving. Journalists who actually tested it were often surprised by how composed and engaging it felt. Many enthusiasts today rarely realize how capable it truly was. This chapter of British motoring is barely discussed anymore. Would your opinion have changed behind the wheel rather than in the showroom? Most people never found out. Its reputation is only now, slowly, being rebuilt. But an even more overlooked machine comes next. Number 4. Bristol Blenheim. The Bristol Blenheim, introduced in 1993, might be the most misunderstood British car of its entire decade. Critics mocked its unapologetically old-fashioned styling, comparing it unfavorably to sleeker European Grand Tourers. Buyers rarely got the chance to judge for themselves, since Bristol famously refused to offer test drives to journalists or the public. Very few enthusiasts today have ever even sat inside one. That secrecy created decades of misunderstanding. Underneath its unusual body sat a Chrysler-sourced V8, delivering effortless, relaxed performance built for genuine long-distance touring rather than outright speed. Ride comfort was exceptional. Build quality, though eccentric, reflected proper hand craftsmanship rare even among luxury rivals. Owners consistently described a driving experience unlike anything else on British roads. Have you ever encountered a car that refused to explain itself? The Blenheim never tried to win you over. It simply existed on its own terms. That stubborn independence still divides enthusiasts passionately today. Number 3. Jaguar XJ40. The Jaguar XJ40 should have been celebrated as a national triumph, yet it became one of Britain's most controversial supercars instead. Announced with a V12 concept that thrilled the world, the production version arrived with a twin-turbocharged V6 and dropped four-wheel drive, decisions that furious early depositors saw as a betrayal. Critics focused almost entirely on that controversy, overshadowing genuine engineering brilliance. Buyers cancelled orders amid economic downturn and public backlash. What often gets forgotten is astonishing capability. The XJ220 briefly held the title of world's fastest production car, reaching speeds beyond 210 miles per hour with remarkable aerodynamic stability. Handling, once understood, impressed even seasoned racing drivers. Many enthusiasts only reassessed it years later, once the controversy faded and the achievement remained. Would history have been kinder with four-wheel drive intact? Perhaps. Either way, its true engineering story deserved far better treatment. The next entry's redemption arrived even more quietly. Number 2. Land Rover Discovery MPI. The Land Rover Discovery, particularly early MPI petrol models from the early 1990s, rarely receives credit for how genuinely important it became. Critics viewed it as a cheaper, less prestigious alternative to the Range Rover, built down to a price rather than up to a standard. Buyers seeking status often overlooked it entirely, unaware of what sat beneath its practical, boxy shape. That practicality was precisely the point. The Discovery combined genuine off-road capability with everyday usability, offering families something no rival truly matched at the time. Reliability, when properly maintained, proved far stronger than its reputation suggested. Interior design, including the distinctive stepped roofline, offered clever practicality rarely acknowledged by critics focused purely on badge snobbery. Many owners only appreciated its brilliance after genuinely relying on one through difficult conditions. Do you remember seeing these tackling terrain lesser cars couldn't manage? Its quiet competence built a devoted following that still exists strongly today. But nothing compares to what awaited number 1. Number 1. Jaguar XJ40. The Jaguar XJ40 deserved far more respect than history ever gave it, and its story remains one of British motoring's greatest injustices. Launched in 1986 but defining Jaguar's identity well into the 1990s, it faced relentless criticism over early electrical gremlins, comparisons to its beloved predecessor, and lingering doubts about reliability. Critics never let those early issues go. Buyers, scarred by rumors, often chose German rivals instead, unaware of how dramatically the car improved. What followed was remarkable. Revised engines, including the smooth AJ6 straight-six, transformed refinement and performance considerably. Ride comfort remained exceptional. Handling matured impressively. Later, more dependable examples quietly proved doubters wrong, yet the reputation never fully recovered in public memory. Many enthusiasts today are only now realizing how genuinely excellent later XJ40s became. Would your opinion have shifted behind the wheel of a well-sorted example? It should have. Its story remains British motoring's most undeserved case of lost respect. History rarely judges cars fairly the moment they're born. Sometimes it takes decades, forgotten memories, and rediscovered appreciation before the truth finally surfaces. Every car on this list proved that first impressions can be dangerously wrong. Some were misunderstood by critics. Others were simply born into impossible circumstances. Yet all of them deserved better than they received. Which one surprised you the most? Did any of these ever cross your path on British roads? Share your memories and experiences in the comments below. We'd genuinely love to hear them. If you enjoyed this journey through forgotten British engineering, consider liking the video and subscribing to the Britain Rewind because some machines never truly leave us.